everybody. Guess who's back? Back again. I have been called shady before, but it's not probably what you think. Thank you, the one audience member who barked in agreement. It's another Tech Talk Tuesday, and Matt Ray is actually here. Neil, how are you doing? Neil, you're muting because you're like, this dog is going banana.
Yeah, I am sleep deprived from the fourth weekend since my dog, who is currently barking, absolutely hates fireworks, and he just heard another one go off. So there's that. If you hear the barking, I apologize in advance, but he really doesn't like it, so I'm just gonna have to deal.
That's okay. Today is July 6th, and if you feel like, man, I just missed Cinco de Mayo, you've been drunk for 2 months, and it's probably time to seek help. So this is we've got a great episode, great in quotes, because man, I always feel like it's a mixed bag of stuff that we talk about. And jumping right into it, man, we have a real doozy. It's almost as if we called this, Neil. But ABC News reporting that Florida is being blocked from implementing their social media what we call that punishment law, right? And if you'll recall, we actually reported on this a little bit, talking about how they had sought to impose fines that were pretty severe, including like basically $250,000 a day if social media companies were found to be removing content or otherwise blocking, banning people that were running for office, particularly there in Florida. Neil and I both kind of shook our head and said, there's no way this is going to fly. And guess what? It's not. So I don't know. It always feels good to be vindicated, don't you think?
Yeah. I like when I'm right, and this was an easy one. But yeah, I mean, there was no way that this was going to fly. I like how the judge did point out the inclusion, or rather exclusion, of Disney in this because they own a theme park, and there was a clause saying that if you own a theme park, you're exempt from this. So anyone with two brain cells probably knew that this wasn't going to fly, or at least I hope so. And here we are. It is blocked for the time being. I do not see a way that it'll come back unless they completely rewrite the bill, which they will. Let's be real clear. They will. But yeah, no, this is a good win. I'm happy to see this, that it didn't have to go like super high up in the court system to like get struck down. It got struck down like pretty early in the process. So yeah, this is good. I'm glad that there's some Florida man that has some sort of sense down there. But hopefully some more jump on the bandwagon and maybe we'll run for office. But whatever.
You never know. I tell you what, buddy, I've been running off of one brain cell and I was able to put this one together. So
yeah, giving people too much credit, huh?
Yeah, I was stretched on it, but I was I was able to. Sorry, I just forgot my name. Well, let's move right along so that we can get a nice photo of somebody that seems like you should never trust. This guy absolutely is super smart, but man, I'm just looking at it. This looks like the mugshot of somebody after a really bad bender. But this is a great article from The Guardian. I was actually really, really into it. It was a rabbit hole that I completely went down and was not at all sorry I did. The premise of this is that the German armed forces basically set up their equivalent of a Department of Defense had set up a project where they brought together a bunch of academics who were saying, hey, we're noticing a trend that if you analyze novels, right, so fiction that is coming out across the world, and you look at it from several different angles, it seems like it's a bit predictive of where conflicts then later explode. And so they actually like took this data, crunched a bunch of numbers and stuff, and gave us this whole scoring model, and went through with a huge team and scored a bunch of novels, and they found out that they were right. That it looks like literature, it can actually be a predictor for not only locale for violence, but the what the issues might be, who might be involved, kind of some of the secondary and tertiary players involved. Um, it's really cool. It's one of those things where you think about like Tom Clancy novels, right? And you think about these kinds of, if you use that kind of as a basis, if you're familiar with those, and think, you know, Tom Clancy writes about the world kind of 10 years up, right? Like he's really trying to be a bit predictive. And so they're really almost a think tank, right? These novelists are kind of a think tank in and of themselves. Now, you don't want to take one and run with it, and that's one of the things that they were talking about. But if you take a huge sample size and run all this information through, it's pretty wild that you could kind of come to some consensus. And this is where I think machine learning and some of those things can really bring some value. But it's interesting the places, and Neil, you always talk about this, the data that's being mined, you may not even see how it's going to get used or the value that it may have, but then until it shows up, right?
Yeah, like that's really kind of the only concerning thing to me is that they're going to be using this in a predictive way. And I'm not saying that that's like a negative thing in all cases, but put into the wrong hands definitely could like stamp out minorities for right for example, like that's not good. Like those are definitely things that could be happening. And so yeah, used correctly, I think this can be very powerful, very predictive, and can help us stave off some rather large crises, which is what it's aiming to do. But I'm concerned that it could be used in a harmful manner as well.
Yeah, looks like we have some agreement here. You know, Ghost Hand 246 is noting that some of the information about Tom Clancy, and you're right. I mean, of course, it's in that specific instance, but also in a broader situation. You think as a novelist, if you're wanting to have a greater impact, better reach, and connect with your audience, you go for realism. Unless it's like the Vampire Diaries or whatever, but even so, right? I mean, some of that is period pieces, right? And you're connecting with things more historically. But yeah, I don't know. I find this fascinating, and it's kind of one of those like palm in the forehead kind of moments for me. I was like, yeah. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, you know, if we've got that going on again in this like little segment in Germany. I can only imagine that this is being looked at then on a world stage, if not being, you know, kind of cross shared. So I don't know, kind of interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be, you know, watch the data, right? Watch the data, not to scare you, but watch the data. That's what Neil always says. Old Uncle Neil always tells us to watch.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of watching your data, oh my God, Neil, did you see this one?
Yes, this is absolutely hilarious to me. Yeah, so if you have an iPhone, do not join any Wi-Fi that has a name with a percent sign in it. Yeah, Apple messed up here, and I don't even know how this gets through testing and QA or anything like that. I have zero idea how something this simple gets through. But if you're a programmer, more than likely you know that you can use specifiers, which typically start with a percent sign. And so the best guess of what's going on here is that somehow that made it through. And so your Wi-Fi name, basically, if it has that, will keep you from actually using any sort of Wi-Fi connectivity, which is absolutely insane. Like, it just completely disconnects you. It won't let you do anything. Yeah, I can't believe how something this catastrophic got through for Apple. But I mean, I guess everyone makes mistakes, but this is a lot of people making mistakes, right?
Yeah, I could see. I mean, percent signs they actually can be an interesting decorator. You know what I mean? If you're just using plain text and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not that weird to think that somebody would have percent signs in their SSID for their Wi-Fi. So, yeah, man, brutal.
Yeah.
Super brutal.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Apple hasn't come out and said like, yeah, we messed up and we have a fix coming for it yet is kind of mind-blowing too. Like, I would assume that this would be something that they would be jumping on immediately and saying like, yep, we're aware of the issue at least.
Yeah. Like, sorry about that. Yeah. But also buy the new iPhone.
Yeah. The new iPhone will fix it. And yeah, I hope you have data.
But only on AT&T.
Right.
Yeah. Other kind of, I don't know, some are calling it fruitless measures, but boy, Elon, he keeps pushing for this thing. His boring company, man, right? Trying to still do with what's in their name and bore into the ground.
Yeah. I think I had a story a couple weeks ago when you were out on this, and like I hadn't researched how much they've actually dug until then, and it's rather comical, like how little they have actually dug. Like it's basically like under 2 miles worth of tunnels under Las Vegas. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
for a lot of big promises here, it's pretty insane how little has actually come of this. Yeah, I mean, something that's really interesting is that it appears that some of their previous projects that they've announced have kind of like gotten canceled quietly, like the DC to Baltimore tunnel, and then like the Chicago loop system. They've both kind of like
Very quickly.
very quickly. So yeah, I think I said a couple weeks ago that I'm not sure how much longer that we can pretend that this was going to work, at least for the Boring Company. I still think that there's validity in the idea, but in practice, it's just like not working out super well with this level of technology that we have. And people have to buy into it, right? It's a major infrastructure project. So like municipalities have to buy into this, and it's just not working. Yeah, I 100% agree with it here. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it could maybe come to fruition, but it's a long shot at best in my mind. But it is Florida, so you never know.
Yes. see story number 1.
Yeah.
I think, thank you, by the way, GoSanchu46. Appreciate you popping by for the live stream and sharing your comments. We're always looking for people to share that. If you have any questions or comments like that, please feel free to hit us up now, later, or go back in time and prove to us that you are a time traveler and save us a little bit of trouble of digging into that ourselves.
Right. Well, with that time travel comment, we're going to call it for today. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on anything that Matt and I talked about today, you can find it in the description below. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a follow, a like, or subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're on. It really helps us out with the algorithm so we can reach more people and spread the tech knowledge. And that's what we love to do. If you have any questions, you can hit Matt or I up on Twitter. Matt's Twitter handle is @TheMattRay, because again, he is super unique, and there will only ever be one of them. And mine is @NeilTardy, because again, basic. I can remember it, and so can everyone else. So yes, thank you for joining us on this edition. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So we hope to see you live next time. And with that, we'll see you next Tuesday.